I'm Umm Eman Syed, a PhD scholar at National Institute of Psychology, Quaid-i-Azam University, Islamabad. My PhD research is in domain of psychology of religion and spirituality. The present poster is on topic of understanding place spirituality through interpretative phenomenological analysis. More than 90% of people in the world agree that God or a similar spiritual power exists or may exist. Although people's specific belief about God vary and the conception of God as a powerful supernatural power is consistent across different culture and religion. Within the psychology of religion, attention has been directed to attachment to God as an important new field for investigating individual differences in spirituality. Attachment to God has been studied with respect to Christians' relationship experiences. Some authorities question the applicability of attachment theory to Islamic spirituality. Thus, it is important to examine the relevance of the attachment construct for Muslims if it is to contribute to greater understanding of Muslim spirituality and mental health. What is place spirituality? It is an attachment bond established between an individual, a divine emotional figure, and a place. As a form of religious behavior representation, emotional bond to place and attachment based spirituality are two important aspects of place spirituality, which is place attachment and attachment to God. The aesthetics of and features of a place can facilitate devotion to the sacred, and the way in which religious believers and non-believers relate to the sacred in a particular geographical setting through events, rituals, artifacts, and storytelling. Place spirituality is an experience as the individual bond bond established between individuals, places, and their religious objects of attachment. Attached to people who are important to them in a place, architectural design of the place, and meanings they attribute to a place. This individual experience emerges from the interaction between the content of their social behavior, loaded with the feelings of exploration and attachment affiliation to God and place, and the environmental setting which motivates such behavior. Place spirituality relies on a strong theoretical background, and the theory that has been used is named as circle of place spirituality model. It is a variation of circle of security model that is an attachment between parent and infant. What does circle of place spirituality says that in one in which a behavior of a religious believer is depicted in a circular pattern of movement that begins and ends with the object of attachment. It is a circular movement pattern that demonstrates the interplay of motivation between exploration of a place and attachment to God, that is the inner representation of an divine entity. The circular the circular path of movement within circle of place spirituality model represents two interaction of two motivational system. Mm, one is the attachment affiliation motivation system, and the other one is exploration assertion motivation system. The notion of a bidirectional relationship between exploration of place and attachment to God was drawn from the idea that human behaviors are patterned in a circular movement aimed at achieving the need of security and meaning, and the drive for attaining certain physiological needs within the environment. When the exploration system, motivation system is activated, the religious believer moves away from the relationship with God to explore activities and attractions in a place. On the other hand, when the religious believer becomes anxious and distressed about their experiences in a place, the attachment system is activated, which is the attachment affiliation motivation system, and they seek proximity and emotional healing from God. Methodology of the research. The interpretative phenomenological analysis was used to explore the concept of place spirituality. The participants were either the religious scholar or academic scholars. Those were inducted through purposive and convenient sampling. The phenomena-based spirituality was initially explored through literature review to build an initial understanding of the concept. Semi-structure interview guide was developed in which respondent from different belief system, different education and life experiences were incorporated as the data gathering tool. The material was analyzed and which consisted of the transcriptions from the interview, and note taking was done during and after the interview. Then open-ended questions were generated from literature review and expert opinion from Victor Counted, who studied this concept for the very first time. And 12 probing questions were also noted. These are the questions. I'll read one or two of them. What makes something sacred? How attachment to a place can transform traumatic experience? Explain how your experience of attachment to the religious place helped you in the process of healing and supporting your quality of life. The triangulation method was used, in which two online interviews were conducted in three participants took part in face-to-face interviews. Time and date were decided on the convenience of the participant. The interview lasted minimum from 1.5 hours to 2.5 hours. Consent for audio recording was taken, but none of the participants allowed for it. Note taking was done by two individual researcher and an added assistant. This is the sample description of the research. Analysis and results. Analysis was done through different stages. First stage was the first encounter of the researcher with the text, and researcher read each transcript to familiarize herself with the data, keeping an open mind about what was being expressed. An additional reading followed, where initial thoughts about the data were recorded. Second step was preliminary theme identification. Each transcript was thematically coded individually from this point, which led to the third stage, which is grouping of themes together as clusters, and thematic coding, which is a thematic coding phase. More than 150 themes were generated. Lastly, tabulation of theme in a summary table was done. A master structure of 20 superordinate theme and 46 subordinate themes were created through evolving structure by researcher, and then gaining insight on the placement of these themes by a second researcher. First major theme was spirituality. First major theme was spirituality, which was which led into four superordinate theme defining spirituality. Some participants define spirituality as metaphysical, philosophical concept. Some explained spirituality as purification of soul, and other related it to self-actualization. Some thought that spirituality is a part of religion, and some thought spirituality is not related to religion. There were beliefs of that most of the participants believed that spirituality is from God, but one participant reported that it can be attained to. And what is sacredness is explained through our religious connection to a place, making it sacred. Then comes the second major theme, which is attachment to God in religious context. Attachment to God in religious context led to one superordinate theme, which is emotional insecurity. And emotional insecurity is an experience during spiritual struggles by the religiously attached individual, which lead them to categories of divine avoidance. Proximity to God help them in promoting their spiritual well-being, and some participant reported that emotional insecurity led them to identify their own inner flaws. The third major theme was attachment to God and religious context. Attachment to God and religious context led into superordinate theme of place attachment shaping religious place attachment religious shaping religious experience, in which were defined as divine presence, closeness to God, and a belief system. It depends. Some participant reported that it depends upon the belief system. Second theme is defined as religion shaping your place experience, a place where more religious practices and participations are done, that helps in shaping your religion. And transformation across time was reported by an participant, which explains that because of redefining and reconstruction of many sacred places, the concept of place attachment is changing. Geographical experience is of a place is discussed in terms of its material geographical pull, emphasizing how people may form a positive bond with the spatial feature of a place. And geographic of a place was associated to religion and had positive behavioral and physiological effects. Attachment to the emotional attachment, according to participant, results from the spatial feature of the place and religious association to a particular place. Behavioral dependency is the place dependency on activities, resources, and event in a particular geographical place, and it is explained through religious attachment to a place or place, or explained through what people do in a place than on the physical structure. Cognitive development involved how individual mirrors the character and lifestyle of a place at a personal level. Most of the participants explain association to religious aspect of a place in terms of cognitive beliefs. Loss of spiritual object led them to affecting them very personally, and participant reported strengthening of their faith because loss of religious spiritual object. The fourth theme was attachment to God in context of trauma, which led to superordinate theme of differential outcome of trauma, which is associated with positive. For example, God is with me, and negative, God is punishing me. In divine terminologies, participants took both the outcomes very positively, reported either God being with them always or considered punishment positively. Social support is defined as a positive support within one's religious community, that is emotional care and practical help, and participation with the community in regular gathering, that is worship services, prayer meetings, as well as specific rituals of lament. Most of the participants reported social support having buffering effect after a trauma, and some participants also reported that non-Muslim gatherings also help them spiritually. Seeking security is explained as an attachment relationship established between an individual and a divine entity with the set goal of maintaining proximity and regulating feelings of separation anxiety after trauma. All the participants expressed God as safe haven and traumatic experiences. Proximity to God through religious behavior is also achieved through religious behavior that draw the individual closer to God through participant explained the acts of fasting, praying, devotionals, meditation, reading sacred texts, and religious participation as their sources of proximity to God. The last major theme was attachment to God in context of trauma, which led to four superordinate themes for religious emotional identification. Explains the increased engagement with the religious practices, for example, prayer and altruistic acts, and religious participation, for example, mosque attendances and involvement in a place following disaster. Most of the participants reported it as a result of help from Allah, and other referred it as resulting in personal growth. Place attachment transformed trauma. Participant reported that experience of place attachment diverted them from traumatic experience and made them feel secure. Place was considered as a secure base in traumatic experiences, facilitating believers' exploration, growth, and development. While place was considered as a healing entity, as participants reported positive emotions that people can have for the place they identify or associate themselves with the place, and place helping them being the symbolic therapeutic support. Conclusion of the research, play spirituality experiences provide a unique window into the maturation aspect of attachment processes in adulthood, showing how relationships can be maintained with spatial settings and religious objects of attachment. All the behavioral, emotional, and cognitive aspects were identified. This study will open up ways for more empirical research in psychology of religion and spirituality. In future, researchers should consider replicating these findings into larger sample groups and alternative research designs. That's all from my part. Thank you.